What is up, guys? Rick Cacus here, keeping you up to date with the latest Destiny 2 news and information. And today we've got some pretty sweet Destiny 2 news to cover. Now, this is coming from IGN. IGN has a deal with Bungie where they're going to be unveiling different things pretty much constantly for the next few weeks. Now, today was a PvP reveal, or at least it was said to be, but there was definitely more stuff going on. Firstly, we got a look at a new PvP map that is going to be available to play in the beta. Next up, we got a look at how Control as a game mode is changing. There's some pretty damn big changes to Control. And then after that, we got a look at the Sentinel Titan. We got some gameplay with him, but also, and very importantly, we got some gameplay and perhaps what is really considered the first full reveal of the Voidwalker Warlock in Destiny 2. Previously, we had seen seconds, literally seconds, of the Voidwalker in trailers, but this is the first time we're getting an actual first-player perspective. We get to see some of its abilities and some pretty big stuff to go over, but let's start off at the top with this new PvP map. It's called the Endless Veil. It takes place on Nessus. To me, it looks definitely like a map with actually quite a few sightlines and flanking routes. You've got these very steep Vex-made cliffs that separate all these different areas, and there looks like quite a few of these areas because, you know, there isn't massive parts of the map cordoned off, but rather you can go through these jagged passageways and really flank your opponents if you want. This map was also described by Bungie developers as a relatively small map, and definitely just looking at the gameplay, I would say that that is definitely the case. It's very confined, well, not necessarily confined, but it's going to be very easy when playing this map to find your opponents. And this was probably done on purpose because, remember, Control, instead of 6v6, it's now 4v4. So to keep up the intensity, they're likely going to have to make the maps smaller than what you see somewhat in Destiny 1. Now, let's move on from the map to the actual game mode with Control. This is very interesting because, first off, you're going to have A and C. The A and C flags are going to be pre-captured at the start of a round. So that's really interesting. Once you spawn in Control, if you're on the A side, A flag's going to be captured. So you have only two things to do. You go to B flag, or you go all the way to the enemy's spawn for C flag. And this, according to the developers, had made things a lot more intense. Now when people spawn in Control, since the B flag is the only uncaptured flag, there's a pretty big fight for it. And that could be fun. I can also see why that, you know, some players may be thinking that somewhat lowers the skill gap. You know, you had to really coordinate with your team who's going to stay and capture your home flag as quickly as possible, and then who's going to go to B. That was actually, you know, a note of a good team, is that they would realize how to do that, especially even depending on the map. But now that choice has really been made for you. But again, it will rank up the intensity, so a lot of players will end up enjoying that. Moving on from there, another big change is that there's no more neutralization. So if you go to that enemy C flag that has captured, the enemy has captured C flag, it's red, it's the bad flag, and you go on it and you capture it, there's no neutralization. You just start to capture it. And on top of that, you capture it quicker than you do in Destiny 1. So this was said by the developers that they're making it so that one person can realistically capture the flag, whereas in Destiny right now, it's very hard to do that. Like, to just solo cap a flag, you are on that flag for absolutely ever. So now you're a lot more of a force as a single player, and a solo player can make a difference, can flank behind the enemy team and capture their flag out from under them. You still want multiple players. You don't want to be on that flag for a very long time, and it definitely is still an amount of time. It's quicker, but it's still a decent amount of time that you have to wait on this flag to capture it, but that is definitely another big change. Aside from that, another change that was very interesting that I noticed is that the flag actually becomes transparent as you get closer to it. So if you're fighting at the B flag and you're just trying to capture it, it was pretty annoying to have the flag waving in your face, and that could even get you killed if you lost sight of an enemy. But now In Destiny 2, that flag will just become transparent and you can shoot your enemies right through it, which is just, a quality of life change. Aside from that, another quality of life change for Control is that the scoring system has been simplified. There's no more attaching zeros to everything. In Destiny 2, if you get a kill in Control and you have 1 flag captured, you get 1 point for your team. If your team has 2 flag captures, you get 2 points, and 3, you get 3 points. It's incredibly simple, incredibly easy to understand, and it makes perfect sense. So that's just going to, well, firstly, probably just be a sigh of relief from a lot of other players, just to have that simplified scoring, but also it's going to really help new players get into the game and understand exactly what's going on. Additionally, the last real change to Control is that the matches are somewhat shorter. The Control matches are only 8 minutes, and this is also with the mercy rule instated. Remember, Destiny didn't launch with the mercy rule. That was actually introduced later, so Destiny 2 will see the return of the mercy rule. So one of the things I saw right away is a comment saying, I hope I don't have to wait in matchmaking longer than the match itself, which is definitely a good point. Matchmaking right now in Destiny, it can take a while. It can be a pretty tedious task. Of course, in Destiny 2, the player population is going to go through the roof, so hopefully that'll help fix that issue. But, if the matches are shorter, Bungie's really going to have to step up the matchmaking time. That is for sure. It is going to, dissuade a lot of players if that is the case. You wait longer in matchmaking than the actual dang game itself. But aside from that, I really don't think shorter matches are that big of a deal. Heck, if you look at it from a hardcore Destiny player, it means that you can play more matches in a shorter amount of time and therefore get a better chance to get loot. So obviously it's an amazing thing in that aspect. Alright, now let's move on from there to the Sentinel Titan gameplay. Nothing necessarily new was shown here. The Sentinel Titan has the same class ability of putting up the barriers as the Striker Titan that we already have seen in full. The melees are somewhat similar, in fact identically named, to the melees that are currently on the Defender Titan in Destiny. And that's really all there is necessarily to it. It was kind of interesting that when we saw the super activation, mostly in the trailers, we see the Sentinel Titan throwing his shield, right? The Captain America meme that's going far with that class. But in the actual gameplay, we didn't see that. Now, this might just be whoever from IGN was playing this guy didn't know or didn't bother to do this, which is definitely a possibility, but it could also mean that you actually have to spec out within the Sentinel Titan to get that ability, to get the ability to throw the shield. It isn't just an ability that automatically comes with that super. That's another big possibility, and that makes this class a little bit more interesting. And in fact, without seeing the shield thrown, this really does look, the Sentinel Titan and how it functions, if you look at, the background gameplay, it really looks like the relic from the Vault of Glass. It looks like they've taken those mechanics of running around, of the same attack, it's the same shield bash, all of that stuff, put on the Sentinel Titan. So that's a really good way to think of that new subclass, and it really does look like a very powerful new subclass. And moving on from there, we have the Voidwalker. Yes, this was pretty much the biggest reveal from today. Very interesting stuff. I'm gonna get the first one right out of the way. It's got blink. It's got blink. Alright, no joke guys, yelling "it's got blink" apparently turned on my Xbox One, so I have no idea how that works, but in any event, this is, again, very big news because when we saw the Arcstrider Hunter, when that was fully revealed, it didn't have blink. And right now the Blade Dancer, which is kind of the genesis for the Arcstrider is a remade Blade Dancer, that very much does have blink. So this means that the Voidwalker Warlock is the only subclass in Destiny with blink. There is one subclass. If you want blink, this is your only choice. With that being said, there are the mythical third subclasses that we haven't seen at all. The Takenkin subclasses have not been seen anywhere actually in game. In fact, in the latest gameplay, it looks like you only have one other class, a subclass I should say, to choose between when you are on a particular class. So it really doesn't look like there's going to be 3 subclasses with Destiny 2's launch, and then the 3 subclasses are introduced later in an expansion, and one of those may have Blink as well, but again, at the launch of Destiny 2, if you want Blink, you have to pick the Voidwalker Warlock. This is a very interesting decision because Blink has given Bungie problems since the beginning. Blink has been nerfed like, what, 5 or 6 times now? It's actually insane how many times Bungie has had to tweak Blink. It's just given them, again, so many problems because it's such an inherently powerful ability. To disappear entirely and reappear somewhere else is going to just confuse the hell out of any casual player. Like, they just get completely thrown for a loop. And so, again, it's had a lot of problems, and that's why when we didn't see Blink on the Arc Strider, a lot of people said, well, there you go, Blink is being removed from the game. But nope, here it is, back in full. Now, some more interesting things about the Voidwalker. Firstly, the scatter grenade, when that was used, it looks a lot different, as you can see in the background here. Looks nothing like the Destiny 1 scatter grenade, so that's pretty interesting. After that, Chain of Woe is back. You can see the player get a kill and activate Chain of Woe. Now, Chain of Woe is a subclass perk where precision kills or kills from critical damage increase your weapon's reload speed for 15 seconds, and it stacks up to 3 times. So it's 5, 10, and then a 15% reload bonus. But it's a subclass perk for the Gunslinger in Destiny right now. So it looks like the Voidwalker is either getting that perk as well or taking that perk away from the Gunslinger, and now the Voidwalker has it. Or it could also, I just want to point this out, it could just be, you know, a temporary name for the build they're playing right now and not actually going to be indicative of the exact Chain of Woe perk from Destiny 1. Like, it could be something completely different, like a perk we've never seen before, just called Chain of Woe. That's a possibility, but it was very interesting seeing that pop up. I definitely didn't expect it, especially from a Voidwalker. And the last big change for the Voidwalker is that the Nova Bomb Super is so much different than it is right now in Destiny 1. Heck, as you're seeing in the background, what the heck is going on? You have an incredibly slow-moving, massive ball of void, which is of course so much different than the very fast-moving smaller balls. So this ball slowly goes forward. It very much looks like, if you can look in the background gameplay, it looks like it starts to curve towards enemies. Perhaps it has somewhat seeking abilities, and then, because IGN has to switch to the Titan's camera to actually see it impact, it gets a big double kill. It's a very big explosive radius, it looks like. And then you can also see, up in the corner, a small void ball moving around after the big one has exploded. So it looks like it splits into at least one other of these seeking void balls, potentially more. So this super is, again, just so much different than what we see in Destiny right now. It's very interesting that the Voidwalker in function is pretty much the only instant, well, actually I shouldn't say instant because it's so slow now, but instant activation super. Everything else is roaming supers. You know, Striker has been changed into a roaming super. The Arc Strider Hunter and the Gunslinger are roaming supers. Everything, the Sentinel is a roaming super. Everything is a roaming super except for the Voidwalker. It was a one and done activation. So that makes the Voidwalker actually pretty unique in Destiny 2. And so guys, that is it for all of the news that has come out in today's reveal. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it informative. Now if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content, be sure to slap that subscribe button. And if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.